So, Festival Wonderfeel, your fourth time?
I think it's the fourth time.
Nice to be back. Well, you are here for the performance of They Have Waited Long Enough.
Yes.
Just tell me about this project. What is it?
So, They Have Waited Long Enough is an idea that Tamar Bruggeman had during COVID, when we were all thinking about what stories are we trying to tell, and then what are we missing when we can't do it in this pandemic time. And she had this amazingly innovative and beautiful idea after reading a book by Natalie Haynes, who's a comedian and classicist. It's a great combination. And the idea was to tell the stories of some very famous Greek characters from mythology whose stories had mostly been told by men, and then to do it musically. There have been people doing this writing, Natalie Haynes among them, but to really commission some pieces that give us that perspective on these women's stories in their own words, or our imagination.
The female perspective.
The female perspective.
Yes.
And she first commissioned 3 pieces of Greek characters. Those were Circe, Medea, and Penelope, 3 amazingly vibrant, scary, powerful, and wonderful women.
Which you sang?
Yes. And then that was They Have Waited Long Enough 1. And now, so excitingly, we are doing They Have Waited Long Enough 2, which is such a privilege to get to do this twice and to pick a whole new group of women to feature and to explore and to have their voices heard as well.
So what women will we hear in this time?
This is exciting because these are 3 Turkish or Turkish adjacent characters, and they're from 3 completely different periods of history, which is a very big change from the last time. Last time they were all mythological, and this time we have one mythological woman. In fact, she's a goddess, half woman, half snake. So that still counts for sure. But she's a character who is found in Turkish mythology and others also in the area. We have one real-life woman from the 9th century, Cassia, who refused to marry an emperor and instead became a poet and a composer. So she's the only composer whose music we have from that period in the Byzantine tradition. It's so cool. So we have her story as well. And we have a 20th century woman who's very exciting, cool person who I was excited to learn about, Suat Darvish. And she was a writer, journalist, political activist, incredibly strong, feisty woman who was really sure about what contribution she wanted to make in the world, and she did, despite very long odds. So they're very cool people, and I was excited to learn about them, and it's a privilege to give them a voice.
It's great to hear you talk about it with such passion. It is something that's really close to your heart, isn't it, this project?
Yes, well, I think that sure, we all know that we should be giving more space for female artists these days, and people often do it, you know, any way that people do it is good, I think, but it can feel a little bit tokenist sometimes, or that we do it because we feel we have to. And so you program 1 or 2 songs by women composers on a recital that's otherwise all music by men, and you feel like you've done your job. It's better than nothing, but for me, I'm really interested in what we can learn, not just about the contributions women made in comparison to the men that were around them, but really on their own. And so a program that is all female characters, all female writers and composers, and in this case, performers, is unbelievably special.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening almost anywhere.
So you got a grant from the European Festivals Fund for Emerging Artists?
Yes.
So in what way was this important for you?
Well, it's a big privilege. I think I'm getting to a point just now in my work where I'm trusted artistically, where I can make contributions in lots of different ways, not only as a singer, but as a thinker, as a writer, as someone who is involved in the conversations much earlier in the process. And I'm really grateful for that, and it also feels like a big responsibility.
Well, talking about your career, how would you say, at what point in your career are you now? Because I looked at your website, you have got a lot of international concerts, working together with orchestras, artist in residentships.
I've been working very hard for a long time. And for me, it was always about what is artistically satisfying. What music can I do that feels good to me? And then, of course, you also have to make a living. But what are the meeting points there? And it doesn't have to be, in my opinion, glamorous or a kind of traditional track that you're told in conservatory that you ought to do. But for me, it was, who do I want to work with? What music do I want to dive into? What do I want to spend so much time on? Because for me, it's all about the time that I can invest always comes back to me in the quality of the result.
So that's actually more important to you than like the big stages, the big concert halls.
Yeah, well, you know, those are nice. I can't lie. Of course, it's wonderful to have the opportunity to see how far my voice can go, and I mean that literally and figuratively. But I only feel now that I'm at the stage where I can really push that distance, and that's, you know, in a space, and that's how far can my ideas travel, who's interested to work on them and to help make them a reality. And so I feel that this is an emerging artist grant that I got, but I think that in many ways emerging artists are people who have already been working for a long, long time, just without the recognition. And I certainly feel like that, but I also feel very grateful to have gotten to a point where I can test my ideas and my music in bigger platforms, bigger venues.
And do you feel that like the classical concert, like a classical music world is moving with you, or does it often feel like it's moving against you?
Both.
Okay.
I definitely feel that the classical music world, not only classical music actually, many kinds of music, the scene, what is desired, what is valued, what kinds of collaborations are possible, this is all exploding outward right now. And actually I feel lucky, again, I feel lucky to have been in the right place at the right time, where I have ideas all the time about stuff I want to do, about people I want to work with. And now I think it's more possible than ever before to reach across these traditionally very closed boundaries of genre. And for me, actually, I never like to be limited by that. And I think the industry is in a place where people are accepting that there's a lot more than we're told.
Perfect. Thank you so much.